All right, family, what's going on? Welcome into another Stock Sermon Sunday. My name is Dr. B. Hopefully, you're having an amazing Sunday thus far, wherever you are in the world. Hopefully, you've had an amazing weekend. It is wrapping up the end of the month of June, which is crazy to think about, as every year it seemingly seems, that was a double entendre. It seems to be that every year thus far, I don't know if it was 2020 or what it was, but it just seems like, wow, where have we gone? Where is the year gone? And that's all a mindset. So I just wanted to welcome you here on this channel. If you're new, if someone referred you, if you found this stream somewhere, maybe in the future, or if you are here live with me in a recent time right after we have posted this, welcome. This is our live stream we do every single Sunday. It's called our Stock Sermon Sundays. My name is Dr. B. I'm a holistic life and business coach and strategist for entrepreneur, former pharmacist, matriculated up through entrepreneurship full time for the past 8 years. So this skill set of trading, as you have seen, has been jumping off and popping off, and I've been so grateful for each and every one of you for the support on this channel. It seemingly seems, there I go again, it seems to be that, I'm the new person on the block, so to speak, but I just felt like my teaching style resonates very much with a lot of folks that want to learn this skill set, and it seems to be resonating. So whether you like it or you don't, or whatever it might be, I appreciate those supporters that have been here for the last 6 to 7 months, so to be. I think that's where we've been going, about maybe a year, so to speak. I don't remember, but I just know we've been going absolutely ham, absolutely ham for the last 6 to 7 months at the beginning of 2025. And today, I appreciate you as transparent as I can be. The channel is now at a position where it can be potentially monetized. So a lot of you are, always wondered, from YouTubers or people, and I don't even title myself that, thought leaders on this platform of YouTube, like, how do you do that? And we're now at a point where the channel has now become that, and that is thanks to you for your viewership and your watch. So all that being said, I see some comments. What's going on, Trent? Casey, how are you? Welcome. Marlon, what's going on, man? How are you? And anyone else that is popping on later in the stream, if you're watching after we have posted it live, all right? Now, I always say, hey, I'm going to deliver the content, and especially this long-form content. And the cool thing about that is, how they say, put things in a book. I don't care what color, creed, whoever you're coming from, wherever you come from. You put it in a book, the answer could literally be in a book, right? For free. You have to go pick up the book. You can do a library card. You can do whatever and get the book for free, right? Or you can borrow the book, do book exchanges, go get a book club, and it costs pretty much nothing, right? And there's free game in those books, but it takes time. I treat that very similar to this YouTube channel, where I'm telling folks every single Sunday for the past, I don't know how many Sundays, there's literally free game if you listen. So when people ask me, I've gotten messages like, Brian, people aren't coming? Like, what are they doing? Like, yes, there's a Discord, because I understand that there's a paid avenue. The reason being is because some people need more strategy. They need to see it. They just can't go based on what I'm saying. But if you get exposed to this for free, and then you go try to implement it yourself, it's like, dang, that kind of worked. That kind of happened. Oh, I see what he's saying now. I remember that live he did. I just need to take an hour out of my Sunday, right, and listen and try to implement and learn, and then tap in as I go along. Because, Trent, you can vouch, other people can vouch in here, like, there are things that I've said on here that it's like, if you listened, you would have paid some bills that week, right? You would have made some money that week. You would have seen certain things happen, and you're like, wait a minute, if I only have listened, right? So I think that's the thing a lot of times, is to see how serious a lot of folks are, is I'm going to keep delivering the content, because I'm like, half people aren't going to listen no ways, right? I'm like, Brian, you didn't tell us? I told you on Sundays, show up every Sunday. You can't get an hour out of your Sunday in the evening time? Most people can't. You can listen on your phone with the kids, bring the family in, everything, right? So all that being said, that's a long intro. If you are here first time, I apologize, but not apologizing, because I think the first intro needs to be important, especially new people that are coming in. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. I've been keeping these an hour of late, so I've been getting you in and out. So our agenda for today, as usual, you'll see me share my screen in just a second. I share the week updates about trading, right? So always separate between trading and investing. So especially new people on here, if you're like, Brian, I have a long-term portfolio. Is there anything I can buy shares in? Do you touch on crypto? Yes, I will give levels on crypto. Any questions that you may have, put it in the chat as well. Beginner questions are welcome. So if you don't understand something I'm saying, I do cover those questions towards the end of our live stream. So make sure to put those questions down below if you need levels or anything. If you wanted to come on here, ask a question right now, go ahead and put it in the chat so it won't slip your mind. So we'll go over the economic data for the week. We'll go over how the end of the June month will end and how that may look for July into August. I'll also look at some stock picks, and I've got some data on the best performing stocks typically for July, right? So a lot of people had those questions, including myself, about, okay, a new month is starting. Is there anything that I should be looking out for? Maybe I can hold for the entire month, or I may want to start looking at those particular stocks for that particular month, right? So I will give those updates as well. We got a lot of stuff going on as well in the economy. You know, the big, beautiful bill and the tax bill that President Trump is doing. I'll talk about that a little bit, as well as some earnings. We got earnings season coming up heavily in the next couple of weeks, so we need to be prepared for that, along with Amazon Prime Day. That's going to be key for Amazon, how it reacts. I'll touch on all of those. All right, ready to go? Ready to go? Ready to go? Ready to go? I'm going to put it in the chat. Perfect. All right. As we go along, you're more than welcome to, if you want to join the Discord, that is available to you. There should be a discount code. I know I appreciate you, Trent. Message me after this. I think one of your referrals came in. I believe so. It seemingly, I think so, but I'll check with you to make sure you get compensated. All right. Without further ado, let's jump into it. And yes, y'all see the fresh cut, so I do apologize for the hats. I do not wear hats all the time. It's just the cut was not cutting at the time, okay? So we back. All right, let's jump into it. There we go. All righty. So I talked long enough. I'll get to the Discord a little bit later. Let's get straight into the info. As usual, go into our economic data. So for my beginners, anybody new, this is how you essentially analyze for the week. We go over fundamentals, which is the news, the economic data, things of that nature, earnings that affects the market, and then we look at the charts, which is technical analysis. All right, on the economic reports this week, we've got PMI, okay? At PMI, so anytime you see, again, 9:45 to 10 a.m. data on this calendar, okay, that is very important. It will affect the market one way or the other, all right? PMI on Tuesday, as well as Chicago. The Tuesday, the U.S. manufacturing PMI on Tuesday is a little bit more important. Also, it's the start of a new month, right? So anytime there's a start of a new month, typically you get some type of drastic move one way or the other. So either we're going to squeeze higher into the end of the month tomorrow, right, and then continue into July, or they could potentially trap a lot of retail investors, right? So trapping, for those that don't know, this would be essentially a bull trap. So retail investors, i.e. us, see everything going up and up and up and up and up, right? And market makers, hedge funds, big money as we call them, will trap retail investors buying the highs and then rip it right back down, right? So we got to be cautious still, even though it's going up, right? Still have to be cautious that we are sitting at new all-time highs and we haven't really had a pullback. It just keeps going up and up and up and up. And there will be a day, whether it's this week or next week or whatever, where there might be that 2 to 3% pullback day, okay? So we don't know what it was going to be. Job openings going to be very, very important there. We know that job openings are in job data in general. That's driving the market, whether we have rate cuts. It's driving the decision of the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell of what he's going to do, okay? So Tuesday is going to be pretty heavy, and it's the beginning of a new month. As you see, there's a lot of 10 a.m. data, okay? Wednesday, ADP, more employment data, going to be very important. So a lot of volatility there, but before the market, as well as initial jobless claims on Thursday, which is always there. And then 8:30 data, we got some employment rates, and then PMI, and then 10 a.m. data, factory orders, okay? We're off on Friday, as usual, for July 4th. So this is a short week, okay? So in summary on how I read this, for my traders, more specifically, long-term investors, if you want to pay attention to this, cool. It's not very difficult to be a long-term investor. Okay, that's why I touch on certain levels as we get on the charts. You don't really need to focus too much on this data if you're a long-term share buyer, your long-term portfolio. You just wait for any 2 to 3 to 5% pullback, just like we had in April. Buy the dip, hold. It's not that difficult, right? That's why long-term investors, more specifically, which I am and everyone should be, right? That's why they're like, man, the market's not that hard. Just buy the S&P and go. But the charts help you, okay? And I think Dreama and Trent more recently, and a lot of other folks that have joined on these lives and are inside of our Discord have learned how the charts can also help you become a better long-term investor, right? Because if you don't look at a chart, you don't know where the dip is, right? Because you don't have levels. So it just keeps dipping and dipping and dipping and dipping. You're like, I don't have any more cash to buy anything. When is this thing stopping, right? So the charts will help you even if you're a long-term investor. And that's what I want to kind of debunk in this trading space. Is it's not always about this fast movement trading. It's about the same skills that a trader may have in a short term, right? Where a trader may say, hey, watch the pullback. And a long-term investor is like, man, we're bullish, just keep buying, it'll be fine. That's a different mindset, right? So that's all I want to say there. So in general here, best days to trade, I'm kind of looking at getting some money Monday, obviously every day, but want to kind of stack some wins at the beginning of the week as we have some like fewer interruptions, right? Meaning we got some 10 a.m. data. We can trade right after the data on 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time on Tuesday. Monday, we'll see what the market wants to do because Mondays can be kind of tricky, as some of y'all have seen inside of our Discord, is we don't really have a direction just yet. We're kind of trying to figure out, is it going to pull back or is it going to keep going? We don't know. So I'm always a little bit more patient on Mondays for the movement, okay? To get some green going for the week, and then we can start picking up more aggressively towards the end of the week. Wednesday, I would really like to stack it up as you see no interruptions. And then Thursday, kind of trade a little lighter, okay? And the reason being because we don't have that Friday, right? So just like the previous week when we had that Thursday off and it was kind of odd with Juneteenth, I want to pay attention to trading this week with no Friday available to hold those contracts, right? So on shorter weeks, typically I want to look at next week's contracts, and I even want to start looking at July 18th contracts for even day trades. Okay, so put that in your back of your Rolodex this week about what type of contracts I'm looking at, what type of trades I'm looking at, and I'll be notifying my group inside of Discord more strategically what's going on. All right, so there's the economic data. Let's go into earnings that we got coming up. So typically in July, which I'll get to in just a second, end of July, beginning of August is typically when the big tech earnings are reporting. So my focus this next month of July, going into this week and next week, is what is Amazon doing, what's Apple doing, what's Microsoft is at all-time highs, but some of the ones that have been beaten down, like Google, I'm really focused on those three. Apple, Amazon, Google, I'll get to those in a second because those are the ones that haven't been really taking out new highs and things like that. They've been kind of chilling and they've got earnings coming up. All right, so put those as far as tech companies on your radar. We'll go over in just a second. All right, earnings. Nothing. All right, just nothing. Nothing there. All right, let's jump into some of this information here, and we're still in the fundamentals, right? All the news and things of that nature. Let's look at this big, beautiful bill really quick. I'm not going to read all of this. I'll post it inside of my Discord for anyone that wants it. But as you can see, I did use ChatGPT. Why? I just wanted a quick summary of everything so I don't have to pull up a whole article. But here's what the big, beautiful bill essentially entails, okay? It's a budget reconciliation bill passed recently, right? Including, here's the key provisions: tax breaks and credits, federal tax deduction changes, healthcare social programs, defense, border, energy, asylum, and AI, which is a big focus there, which is the AI federal funding for a 10-year period, and then a deficit debt impact there. So the big, from my research, and y'all can tell me if I'm wrong or right if you have more information. I'm not here to say I'm all right. I'm just trying to present the information and awareness. A lot of the trouble here is that the money will be taken out of obviously the consumer's pockets via taxes, and the tax breaks aren't really going to hit in the way that they should for regular Americans, as well as some healthcare benefits that aren't really going to, people have talked about Medicare, Medicaid, things of that nature, not really either going away or just changing in the way that it's not benefiting the regular average everyday person. So that's a lot of why you see a pushback. For those that are aware, that's awesome. For those that aren't and not keeping up with his politics and economy and all this kind of stuff, that's why you see Elon pushing back a little bit. Is he's essentially notating like, hey, this sounds great on the front end, but just be aware on the back end how this may hit the economy later, as far as the country going further into debt. Like, where's all this money coming from? Are we taking out more loans? Is that why Trump's trying to push Powell into further rate cuts? Like, hey, you need to cut rates out. You need to cut rates now, because he's most likely he's trying to essentially refinance the U.S. debt. So the country's benefiting from more rate cuts, not just the individual, i.e. us. So we're saying we want more rate cuts, rate cuts. When in reality, rate cuts aren't going to do much. It'll do a little bit of short term, but have you put more money in the person's pocket? Have you lowered inflation costs? Have we talked about the job market, where a new incoming graduate coming into the job market is essentially unemployed for the first year, or having to take a basic entry-level job or a retail job, and they have a degree with debt? Or you have a millennial or a Gen X person that has all the credentials, and they're trying to maneuver, and they have to stay where they are, and they're trying to develop a family and also pay off debt and also be a caregiver. And then you have, let me not get started, right? It's not me. I'm just saying, like, this all sounds well and good per se, and it might be, but are we really solving the problems? And that's a lot of why I'm very much focused on, hey, this skill set of trading, or this skill set of using the money you have, how can you double it? How can you, essentially 50% on your money without risking a lot, right? You don't need to put 25, 30, 40, 50 grand down on an investment to get the returns that'll get you just an extra $1,000 a month to pay X dollar bill, right? Because people's essentially expenses have gone up an extra 1,000, 2,000, whatever, just by like things you need: groceries, insurance, like the basic maintenance of life, right? So if anyone, in summary, if anyone wanted to know my take on, and let me do this, okay? Because I feel like I'm small on this. I feel like I'm small. Okay? If anyone wanted my take, if it matters at all, okay? I have the intention when I show up here and in for my life is to say, y'all can do whatever you want to do as far as all these magnificent things, but where's the extra $2,000 to $3,000 to $4,000 every month that a person may need for their household? So when is that coming in my pocket without you essentially waiting on you to create more jobs, or waiting on these corporations to say, hey, you're a good fit? There's not many things, right? And also not many things that require less risk. That's what people are looking at, is like, how can I essentially, even high risk tolerance people, which I have a pretty high risk tolerance, even individuals that are saying, Brian, I'm abundant thinking, I'm continuing to pour into the market, I'm continuing to create businesses, I'm continuing to apply for new jobs and move up the corporate ladder and save and all those things. But to what extent are you having less risk but more reward? So if you leave a job and start a business with no groundwork, then how does that work out? Right? If you pour $50,000 into a house but don't have it already pre-sold, or have the contractor ready to go with all the materials ready, not with tariffs and all this other stuff and inflation, like the materials are ready to go, you confirm that, and you're ready to sell the house in less than 5 months, right? So it's guaranteed. So then, if anyone want to know, that's why the markets have been very attractive for folks, even crypto markets. It's because it's saying, man, I can put $1,000 in, grow this account with the right skill set, or I could put $1,000 into, Solana. If you're into meme coins, that's fine, but I'm just talking about the Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, even XRP out there. I can put $1,000 in and get 100+% of return on my money. Or this April dip, right, where we've gone back to all-time highs. That was a month and a half of returns. You get my drift? Can I get a one in the chat really quick? Is everyone understanding my little mini tangent? Because we're coming to the end of the month. I always want sometimes for people to understand, like, I consider myself different, right? Not special, just different. I want people to understand the intention behind not just coming on here showing levels and charts. Does that make sense? Why you have certain things happening, why you see a shift. It's like, why is everyone talking about the markets? Like, maybe I should learn this thing. Why Trent may be telling some folks like, hey, maybe y'all should tap into some of this stuff, because it's really intriguing how you can make money from anywhere, clicking buttons, and there's a strategy, right? It's not gambling, it's not guessing. Okay, cool? We good? Awesome. Appreciate y'all sticking through that. All right, we good? Got everybody emotionally invested now. So there's the big, beautiful bill, okay? In summary. Let's go into the best and worst stocks during July 4th. Best and worst stocks during the week of July 4th, this week, into the first part of July. Okay, so I'm not going to read off all these, but you can take a look here on my screen and see that some of these that are highlighted, I just mentioned. The AMD that's already moving. And I'll go jump on the charts in just a second. Google, okay, average return 3%, median return 1.5%, a little over 1.5%, positive return percentage, right, 80+%. Amazon, close to 3%. Okay, I just mentioned a lot of these that were beaten down. Obviously, some of these that are highlighted, you see that Microsoft, Palo Alto, PanW already kind of moving, Broadcom already at all-time highs, right? I'm looking at the ones that are kind of beaten down a little bit. PayPal, pretty good return there. Now, why is PayPal, right? Because the summer shopping is coming in, right? A lot of you are already experiencing that. Like, man, summer, the kids, we're kind of going on vacation, we're doing this other stuff. So you're shopping on Amazon, you're getting the summer stuff, you're buying food for July 4th, you're spending a little bit extra money because it's warm outside, all right? So understanding the human behavior, you can benefit off of that by understanding the markets. So while everyone's swiping and going to Walmart, picking up all this stuff, taking the kids to the pool, taking them on vacation, family out, all this stuff, you can be in here and say, man, let me see if there's something that I can buy, either shares or use options trading to be able to leverage that and make my money back. Get me? So understanding these trends is very important while everyone's still just swiping and spending money all over the place, right? You can even the playing field. How cool would it be for somebody to say, like, yeah, I had to buy some stuff on Amazon Prime Day, whatever. There was some deals that popped up, and you're sitting here with an Amazon call contract or shares in Amazon, and you're like, oh man, the Amazon stock paid for my stuff this weekend. Wild. So I understand it's difficult for a lot of folks, but when I hear, even for me, I'm not immune to this, but I just know that there's things out there that people just don't know. So when someone's like, man, I ain't got it right now, or just be transparent. Let me be transparent with y'all, real with y'all. The Discord is $135 a month, right? People pay for Netflix subscription, Paramount subscription, Amazon subscription, Costco membership, right? Their gym membership, all equaling it up to $135 a month. I teach people how to make $135 a month, or $135 within 1 to 2 days. Okay, that's fine. You get me, right? So it's like the mindset of understanding how me expending money out can bring me something back. So then the things that I feel maybe guilty of buying sometimes, I got to go to the grocery store, I got to do this. And next thing you know, the bill's $100, $200, $300, right? Or I want to buy some new clothes, get some fresh for the summer, whatever. you're not really thinking about that because you know this stuff is working for you, or you can make it back really quick. I spent $200. Okay, I can make $200 back in the market tomorrow. All right. So there's that. All right, we good? Let's jump on to the charts, my favorite place where the money is made and folks don't want to spend no time. All right, let's jump into SPY per usual, okay? For those that don't know how to read the charts just yet, and you're jumping on here for the first time, or you're jumping on here the second time, and you're still trying to understand it, please go watch that charting video that I have on the channel. It is extensive. It's been pretty well received, so please go watch that. If you want more information, maybe I need to throw another boot camp, so let me know if y'all want another boot camp. I can throw that up very quickly. It's a 3-day boot camp, and we can do that either this week or next week. Put boot camp down below if you want more information on that. All right, all-time highs here. I start on the monthly time frame, and you can see that we have broken out into new all-time highs on SPY. Let me know if anyone wants me to go over futures levels as well. I can do that. All right. So SPY, the S&P 500. And before I jump into this, you can see these lines that are moving here. The only lines that I personally use on my bigger time frames and on my shorter time frames are this 20-day moving average and this 200-day moving average. Okay. So as I change the time frame down here, you will see that this will slowly start moving, almost like it's riding a wave, okay? When I see it above those waves, that tells me we have very, very strong momentum or strength, okay? We have regained bullish strength if we're above that, okay? When we get below it, you see that it kind of gets that bearish nature, and that's how traders or long-term investors can know when those big drops are coming. So if you see anyone on these channels saying, hey, I'd be a little careful, it's not that we're fear-mongering. It's essentially we're reading these charts and we see some things that are just not lining up. So this was that big drop before the tariffs really hit, the tariff news, right, at the beginning of this year. But you see, once we regain that 20 moving average on a weekly time frame, right, that's when we start getting that bullish momentum because it got above it. If I move to the daily time frame, same thing. Okay, so I look at this 200-day and 20-day, right, very diligently to understand, is it close to it? Is it above it? Is it below it? Is it struggling around it? And that's where you'll start getting those big momentum moves because you can ride those waves longer, okay? Same thing here. I'm on a daily time frame on the SPY. You can see that's where it crossed the 20 days, so it got very interesting. Right, once it crossed back above it, because you can see that trend broke from lower high, lower high, lower high, and then the trend essentially flipped. Right at that cross, flipped, and now we're back bullish. Okay, riding this wave. It tried a couple of times to try to break it, as you can see, tried right there and just held. Right, so that tells me that we are still extremely bullish. So it would not be out of the question to do what? To potentially pull back into that level if it wants to continue to go higher, right? So when you heard me say earlier and tell you, hey, I would not be surprised if you're like, man, what happened to the SPY today? We're down back to 600. We're crashing, right? But if you look at the daily, that's just pulling back close to that 20-day moving average, and that could be another lower, it's going to be a higher low. You see that trend? Right? So the stock market does not go up in a straight line. That's why you hear investors and traders like myself or anybody that understands this do not chase. So if someone is saying, hey, man, did you check out like NVIDIA? It's going crazy. You should buy it now. Well, NVIDIA has already broken out new all-time highs. Do not take out your life savings and put it into NVIDIA at all-time highs, okay? So you want to invest, obviously, on red days. You want to get interested on buying opportunities on red days, right? Or if you're bullish, you need to wait for some type of pullback, right? Because your risk to reward sometimes gets a little bit out of whack, okay? So We good there? Can I put a 2 in the chat as I keep rolling along here? Does that make sense from a top-down approach of how I analyze this about how we're bullish, right? And then we should potentially expect some type of little bit of a pullback. And I'll get the pullback levels, right, as we go into our lower time frames here, our lower intervals. We good? Everybody still follow me? 2 in the chat. Everybody still follow me? 2 in the chat. What's going on, Angela? It's good to see you. How are you? How are you? How are you? 2 in the chat. Everybody good? Follow along. If there's any beginner questions or anything, please throw them out. Like, I do never want to lose anybody. I want people to feel empowered, confident, and say, man, okay, that's making more sense. Okay, I'm still a bit confused about the lines and whatever. That's okay. That's where the Discord comes in, or our boot camps, or any consult stuff like that, or just binge watch all the channel videos. All right. Let's go into our lower time frames here, and we look at candle structure. Okay. This is the market structure. Okay. Market structure shows us bullish, right? We got a little bit bearish. We were kind of in a bear market right there, but we recovered the bull market, and that is market structure. Okay. Candle structure is how each individual candle is looking for that interval. So if we look here at this candle on a daily time frame, this is what happened with SPY on Friday. That candle right there. Okay. That candle is essentially telling us that we are still bullish, but we had some selling kind of coming in. So the wicks on the candle, if the bottom wick is very long, okay, that tells you that buyers came in and bought the stock back up. This used to be a long, green, solid candle like that. Okay, so it looked like that, and it got bought up and closed. So the price of SPY is over to my right-hand side. So if you see and follow me, 610, it got bought up, bought up, bought up, bought up, and went all the way up to 616, and then closed that candle right at 614.91. Okay? So this was once a big red candle. Okay? It was once a big red candle, and then flipped, turned green, and then came up and then sold off. So this candle tells me that SPY is kind of like in this limbo, right? The reason being is because it doesn't look like this candle. See how long that wick is on that candle? Got bought up, and then doesn't really have a heavy top wick. That is really bullish because there was not really much selling. Do you see the top wick on this one? Even though it's green, right? There was a top wick that came in, and guess what followed the next day? Red. More top wicks, red. Full red body candle, right? So this one right here is kind of like in an intermediate stage, right? Meaning it could go either direction. And that's just understanding, as we call it, candle structure, okay? Reading the candle, knowing who has control, buyers or sellers. That's how investors and traders understand what's coming that next week or that next day based off how the candle previously was. Okay. Now, somebody might get confused on this candle because they're like, Brian, does the candle color matter? No, not necessarily. Right. We had a bullish candle followed by a longer wick at the bottom of this red candle. So just because it's red does not mean it's bearish. Right. Because we are forming higher lows. Look at the trend. And higher highs. It's a trend. Right? So until that trend really breaks, that's when I personally do very, very well. When trends break. Right? And y'all know me inside the Discord. I love the downside. I love seeing big red personally for at least my day trading stuff. Right? I just banked this week on shorting the market. Even when the market was going up, I felt so in control shorting the market this week personally. Let the long term go. I'm talking about trading, okay? Because when you get into all-time high territory, you're in, as we call it, blue sky territory, right? It's never been here before. So you really don't have a clear next level. So you're just keep entering calls, and you're like, I don't know where this is going, right? That one day, right, it just drops, right? So we have something that it's called, from my experience, folks, called a Fibonacci extension, where we can get some levels. As you can see there, I use a tool called a Fibonacci extension tool that'll give me some next levels on SPY. This is an algorithm, just don't even worry about how it does that or whatnot, but you see the next kind of level here is right at about 623. So there's a possibility for SPY, if we're still bullish this week, to get up into 620 if it takes out a new high, okay? So if we take out that 616.39 this week, right, we can create a new high, all right? So I'll wrap this piece up here, and for those that are new or that have been referred in here, it's like, man, this is a lot, right? This is a lot. Understand that I always try to simplify it towards the end, but as you see this information building, that's how we build a, as we call it, logical trade plan for the week, where my focus might be. I might be like, I don't really like calls, on the upside. I don't really like too much more upside. I'd rather just wait. If the market doesn't pull back, I'm not chasing, things like that. You kind of have that in your mind, so you have a game plan, all right? And we always look at the S&P 500 to get an overall direction for the market, if it's bullish, bearish, or in between, all right? So let's go into a little bit of the shorter time frames, and I always, speed this up as we go, because I said I would keep it underneath the hour. I feel like I was too excited today, so I've been yapping a little bit more than usual. All right, going to the 4-hour time frame, you see how the market at the end of Friday got bought up very aggressively. See that long wick right there? So that tells me on Friday that buyers stepped back in very aggressively there. So we might have some buyers to want to push this higher, okay, based on how that candle closed at the end of Friday. If I go into some 1-hour time frames, you can see there that it may want to retest this high, right? That's where it's headed. It would look something like that, right? So on SPY, I want to watch that 616 level, okay? I do not want to trade calls into that level. Why? Y'all know why. Some of y'all, this could be a double top, right? This could be a trap, and it rips us right back down. Kind of like what it did here, right? Goes up, everyone trades calls. Man, this is never stopping. This is never stopping. Nope, trap, right back down, all right? So what happens is it needs to clear. That's why the charts help us. We call it a break, okay? And then a retest. Like that. Cool. Now we're sitting on the top of that level. Now we can go up. So it needs to break into new highs, right? Or gap up into new highs. See if it holds above that, just say 617. If we see it above 617, okay, cool. It may want to try to trend up to that 620, right? Like we talked about. So that is the difference from experienced traders that know how to read charts and people that just blindly enter calls just because you're bullish every day. Okay? Levels matter. So we want to watch the top end of this, right? The best place to enter calls is really not necessarily up here for trading purposes. The best place to enter calls is back down here at some of these supports. See how it bounced right there at that support? Right there. Why did it do that? Look what it did last time. Look to the left. Right there. There's a support. Buyers were ready to buy that up. Okay? So that's a level. The better risk to reward for calls as well would be back down into here. 607. All right? And yes, that does seem pretty aggressive. Like if we pulled all the way back down into there, there you go. Something like that. Okay? Or if it gets very aggressive and something happens drastically, I don't know, this bill or I don't know, right? But I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon, but I'll be watching the trend to see if it breaks. Is we pull aggressively back into here, something like that, right? So those are, when you're grinding up like that, those are the types of things you want to, is the best risk to reward. So when people ask me, Brian, why I saw on your story that you were playing puts, but the market was green all week, is because I can control the downside a little bit better for me personally, right? I can control the downside, meaning I know exactly where resistance is, right, as it gets exhausted. So if it pushes up here, I can control that a little bit better trading down, right? Also, our RSI is overextended, right? See, that relative strength index is getting a little bit overbought, right? A little bit too many cooks in the kitchen. As you see, every time that RSI gets up there on a daily, what happened here? Pull back. What happened here? Kind of kept pulling back a little bit. And right up there again, we could have another pullback. Okay? Same thing that happened here, a 4-hour time frame. Got a little bit overdone in this caution zone, pulled back. Caution zone again, could pull back one more time. All right? All right, there's my extensive analysis on SPY, okay? So levels really quick to summarize SPY, then I'll speed up everything here because I'm going to wrap this up in 15, max 20 minutes, all right? So ask your questions down below. I'll try to answer them as quickly as possible. And I do apologize for keeping you a little bit longer than usual. All right, I want to watch 608 to 607 if we do have a drastic pullback, okay? I want to watch that area there to see if we pull back to there, what do we do there, okay? Or if we pull back to this previous bottom here, which would be roughly around 610 to 612, okay? Because we bounced pretty aggressively around 611.50, right? So I want to watch that level as well and see if we can form a higher low. And I'm talking more specifically to my call folks, my folks that are only bullish, is seeing if you can get that pullback, buy it up, and go back to the upside, okay? For my folks that are inside my Discord, I will be watching some high-risk puts on some names if I see it in resistance, okay? I don't personally like to signal or talk about puts or the downside or trading the downside unless a person is comfortable or they know what they're doing, because trading puts or trading against a strong market like this, you need to have a little bit more skill, in my opinion, or be inside of a group or understand what you're doing, right? Because it doesn't make logical sense, right? If you tell someone, why would I trade against this strength? It makes no sense to them. But we made 80, 90% of our money on Friday and Thursday, right? So I will be looking at resistance levels up here if I do see some resistance stepping in at 616, or if it forms some type of lower high, something like that, under 615, okay? If I look to my left, do you see that previous support right here? It's now holding up as support. You see that 614.64. So if I see it get back underneath there, you see that aggression, how it pushed underneath that level. Let me get some of these lines off. Right there. See how aggressive it pushed through there, then turn that into a bear flag like that. And then we went down lower. Right? So I will be looking at that and trading the downside if I do see some kind of failing, coming back down underneath this 614, right? Maybe into 613s. I'm like, okay, I can trade that maybe back down, okay? And it does not always mean trading just SPY. It means if I see that rolling over, I can look at my respective stocks, trade, Google back down, trade Amazon back down a little bit, trade Nvidia back down, things like that, all right? Cool. Everybody good on SPY? I feel like that was a mouthful for me. I get 3 in the chat. Everybody good on SPY? Let me check the chat. Questions. Are you trading on Webull charts? What are highs and lows you're looking at on the RSI? Great question. Yes, I am trading on Webull. I do have Robinhood as well, right? But yeah, I primarily trade on Webull, but I do trade on Robinhood as well, okay? And there's pros and cons why I do that. One, I just always charted on Webull, so staying on the same chart does help me out, and I can just enter and exit on the same thing that I like charting on. I personally don't like charting on Robinhood Legend. I love the new platform. I still love it. I think a lot of people have benefited from it. But yeah, Webull, personally. Are you trading on Webull? What highs and lows are you looking at on the RSI? Okay. So I typically look at RSI on the higher time frames, okay? So if I see, a daily or a 4-hour time frame or an hourly time frame, I typically look at that. So hourly, 4-hour, and daily. Okay. And if you see SPY here, I typically look at that just to get a gauge for like the week, right? Now, for my day trading, I do use like a 5 and a 15-minute RSI sometimes if I think something is going to bounce at a specific level or reject at a specific level. So if I pull up this RSI here, I'm on a 5-minute, which 5-minute and 15-minute are typically day trading intervals, right? So if I'm looking to day trade or make money intraday, right, do you see how overextended it got underneath, right? 30, underneath 30, or over 70 are typically your markers. So look at where it bounced right there, right at 610, because it got also overextended on the RSI. So that is another indicator where you can see that it was going to have a big move back to the upside. Now, guess what? It's back up. RSI is a little bit high, as you can see here, on a 5-minute, so it may want to roll back over a little bit, potentially on Monday. Look at the 15-minute. Look at that. So it has a little bit more room on the 15-minute. Guess where that lines up? If it has more room on the 15-minute, that essentially means that it could move up to the top end of that 616. Do you see that? So that's why I would probably wait a little bit, because I wouldn't want to, get a little bit too early, or wouldn't want to trade into top end resistance. You see how overextended got on 15 and rolled over heavily right there, because too many cooks in the kitchen. People got trapped. RSI was an indicator to help with that. Does that help a little bit? So I primarily use 5, 15-minute, right, for my day trading. Maybe even like an hourly just to see. So if we check hourly just real quick, just for like the day, the entirety of the day, look how overextended that hourly was. So guess what? I expected a drop on Friday. Makes sense. All right. RSI was overextended, so I expected that whole day to kind of drop. Okay. That's why I'm a little bit concerned that if we push back up into here on an hourly and we're already overextended, we could get trapped, roll right back over. There you go. I'm trying to convince turn the non-believers into believers, where they do it or not. They're like, oh, y'all do have strategy. It's like, I live in Vegas here, but this is not gambling, okay? This is not gambling. There is specific strategies. Why do you think people are actually making a living off this? There's strategy, right? But yet people still dismiss it. And the stock market's gambling. You don't know if it's going up or down. Okay, more for me. More for me. All right. I don't know what that is. Let's see. Other questions really quick. So if the top of the candle is longer, that means the sellers have control, right? Yes, exactly, Casey. Awesome job. So if I see a longer top wick candle, I don't know if I can find one here. A little bit tough. Maybe something like that. Right, but typically for beginners, what I try to focus on, and I don't mean to say everyone's a beginner, but people are just still trying to get the grasp of everything, is focus on trends, right? Focus on trends first and try to trade with the trend. Then you can focus on entries if you're trading, right? So the whole time during 2024 and 2023, guess what the trend was? Up, right? You just had to wait for a pullback day or a pullback week. Calls, buy it, calls, buy it, calls, buy it, buy shares, keep going until that trend breaks. Okay, I'm getting a little bit concerned. All right, cool. Now I can trade it back down with puts, or maybe I might want to trim some profits on some of my stocks because I don't know where it's going. Now, guess what? There's no trend break at all on this just yet. It is extremely bullish, as you can see. All right, so it looks very similar to that 2024, 2023. All right, now I am still concerned about the economy in general because, first of all, on the charts, we got all these gaps back below. I was telling my community, Casey and anyone else that maybe have been referred in or brought in, essentially called this drop in 2023? How many of y'all remember that? Put a 5 in the chat if you're in our Discord. How many times did I say, guys, ladies, there's going to be a massive drop probably at the beginning of 2025? And I only was saying that not because I'm a guru or not because I'm saying I know everything, is because this RSI was getting very heavily overextended, right, on these higher time frames, weekly, right, monthly, right, getting super overextended where it may have a drastic pullback, and we call it a black swan event. There was also massive gaps that need to be filled, these little gray areas here that needed to be filled, which they got filled on that drop. But guess what has created now? More gaps right there, right there, right there. So we don't know what it's going to be, but there'll probably be another. It could keep going up a little bit higher, but there'll probably be another kind of little downtrend again at some point, right? And that's where you hear those things in the news saying there could be another recession. Elon saying a market crash. Like, I don't really care what the news is saying. I'm looking at the charts. Like, there's gaps below, and I would not be surprised if something crazy happened and we pull back like that. Just like everyone was shocked with this thing. What happened to the market? See, I told you, Trump. Like, just look at the charts. Then you're not surprised, right? Then you're not surprised. All right. All right. Does that answer everybody's question? Everybody good? Yeah, you're absolutely right, Casey. You're thinking logically, right? It's like, how much longer, like the big money, hedge funds, anyone that's managing billions and our country trillions of dollars, right? They want to protect their profits, right? So if you were up, 2 billion, what would you do? Trim some profits, probably, right? So that's why the retail investor doesn't really relate, because they're not thinking like a hedge fund. They're thinking with their $100,000, $200,000, $1 million portfolio, or someone just beginning. They're like, Brian, I got $5,000. They're thinking like that. They're like I want to turn 5,000 into $1 million, right? But they're already up 100%, right, on their portfolio. So you got to manage different portfolios or different amounts of money differently and start thinking like, well, what if this was $5 billion and I'm up $5 billion? What if I was up $5 million and I'm sitting here like, man, do I want an extra 100 grand? No, I'm going to take take a quarter off the top and a quarter off the top for that amount of money. If all hedge funds, if y'all seen some of the movies, quarter off the top could mean a 2, 3, 4, 5% pullback, right? All right, let's jump into QQQ. I'm rambling. I enjoyed talking to y'all. 550, nice psychological level to go off of. Round even number 550. Pay attention to that. If it's above 550 on QQQ, then we're probably going to be pushing and squeezing a little bit higher into 555, potentially 553. It may go a couple more points. But again, I want to watch this level here to see if we get through it. If we can't get through it and we get stuck, it could be a drastic pullback like that, right? Back down into equal lows at 544, where it bounced before. If we break that, we've got back down into probably these 540s. I don't really think this is going to be a big hold. It might into 543, but I personally think we'll try to just fill that gap and get back down into 540. And that'll be about a $10 drop, which we've seen very easily on QQQ, okay? Then it might try to hold that and retrace back to the highs, okay? So that is the best risk to reward would be back down here into 540 area on QQQ. I actually like QQQ's chart a little bit better than SPY just because there's a little bit more room. There's more levels that are a little bit cleaner. SPY, it's okay. It looks about the same, but yeah, I just like that 550 round even number personally. I just like how clean that is. So I'll be paying attention to what it does at 550. IWM, we see here that it is IWM is getting pretty strong here, but there is some top level resistance we need to be concerned about, which is right around this 216 level. Let me turn back on our moving averages here. You can see That weekly moving average, you see that wave that it got back above. You see how it popped off of there pretty easily, right? Back above the 200 as well. So that is bullish right now. Daily, it's holding above our daily 20 and daily 200. So that is bullish. Okay. So when I see that, guess what my mindset is? My mindset is, how much more room do I really have? Because previous support around in this area of 217, 218, just like it got rejected there at 217.43, right? Could be a little bit of resistance. So it's kind of stuck in this channel here, which I'm not a big fan of right now for IWM. It needs to break out of that channel and either get into the next channel above or break back under and fail, and we get back into that channel. All right, so get out of this right now. Okay, it's in this channel between like 215 and 217.50. Okay, so I have the same idea on IWM. It's getting a little bit, it's very bullish, right? Grinding its way up, looks good, but getting a little bit overextended here, maybe on the RSI on a daily, just slightly. So maybe it retests, but I will be watching that daily 200, which is sitting right at 214.15. If it is above 214.15 or 215, I do not want to short it. I do not want to trade against it necessarily. I will only look at it at 218 and 220, see what it does in that channel. But as you can see, it's kind of choppy and ugly up in this area, in my opinion. As you can see what it did last time, just kind of, once it got above this area, just kind of chops in here, goes up to here, 222, comes back down to 212, goes back up. Like, it's just not pretty. So I need to see a direction on IWM. So bullish until otherwise on IWM for right now. Where we would get concerned on IWM if something happened, the bill or something, I don't know what would happen, but if we fell back underneath that daily 20, all right, that blue wave line right there, which is sitting right at 210.64. So we could pull all the way back down in there and still bounce. All right. Cool. Hopefully everybody's following along. I'm trying to get everybody up to speed. All right. How we looking? Okay. Speed it up, Brian. Speed it up. Speed it up. NVIDIA. Uncharted territory, new all-time highs. I'm just going to be looking at the psych levels. So 160. What does it do at 157 to 160? I'll be just watching to see what it does with the market. If SPY, QQQ are pulling back, great. NVIDIA may get a little bit aggressive, but it's just grinding its way up. I'm really not interested in trading it more specifically. Let's just let the shares do its thing. I don't want to get too greedy up here trading calls and trying to get a little bit more out of NVIDIA, right? It needs to roll back over and give us another chance to get back in. But yeah, NVIDIA, there's the daily 20. So y'all know that daily 20 has become our friend. If it does want to pull back, that could be right back to 144. That could be a target, right? If we do fail or if we do have a big, massive pullback, that 144, 145 area, okay? So watch that. If we do get some weakness, we can trade it down. So if it fails back underneath previous all-time highs, which would be a failure back underneath 152, then we could trade NVIDIA back down, which seems crazy to some folks that don't know how to trade both ways. But yeah, we can trade puts on NVIDIA back down if it breaks that trend. Okay. All right. Let's go into Apple really quick. Apple, pretty ugly here, but sitting also on top of the daily 20, as you can see right there. So bullish or just sitting there waiting on something to happen. I'm really looking for Apple to break above 207. Turn your alerts on. If Apple is above 207, it's about to have some serious bullish momentum. Okay? That is when we can really confidently trade calls on Apple. If you have Apple shares, if you are waiting on Apple to do something, okay, maybe it does it into its earnings, and its earnings are going to be, I think, at the beginning of August. Okay, so just pay attention. We want to watch Apple. That'll be August. Yeah, like August 2nd or August 3rd on Apple. So we got a month until Apple's earnings. You want to pay attention to it going into its earnings. This could take off with some kind of random news, or it could drop lower, right? So I want to watch Apple, what it does. If it starts building momentum, it's consolidating, and anytime it consolidates, very similar to Tesla, if y'all remember, Tesla was consolidating for a while right in here. It was consolidating for a while when it had that bad news here. You see that consolidation right there? Beaten down from the highs, consolidated, and then breaking out, right? So Apple, keep an eye on it. I think it's a good buy at this area, anywhere around 200 to 194. So I know someone asked, I think in the chat, like what expirations are you looking at for maybe call options or options in general? That varies. I mean, I need to see how the market opens up, but if you want to be safe, like if you are somebody that doesn't want to join a Discord and you're comfortable trading your own, or you're in another group, that's perfectly fine too, whatever. I would start looking at minimally for safety August 15th. So if you're bullish on Apple and you're like, man, how can I just have a safety all the way out, take it 2 months out, and start looking at the 215s, 220s, maybe 210s if you have a little bit more money to play with. And yes, they are pricey. You're paying for safety. So that's $500 right there for the 210 calls out until August 15th. But if it goes way past 210, the delta $37, yeah, I mean, you can easily double your money there if Apple breaks out, right? But you are spending a little bit of money on the front end. You don't really know which direction it's going yet, which is why I'm just being patient to see where I can be confident in doing that. But I do like a little bit more bullishness towards Apple than obviously bearishness. July 18th, I still think it's more of day trading opportunities, just because look how much interest is on the call side on Apple already. 37,000, 52,000. People are already buying up these contracts, ready for Apple to pop off at some point. So you can see those 210s are 150 for July 18th, and then 205s around 300, right? So when and if Apple does break, it's going to start moving very, very quickly. So I would keep 210 as a immediate 210 to 215 as an immediate target for Apple. And you can see that I called this last time Apple did this. Some of our community members actually caught it. I wasn't able to get my entry, and then it popped off the next day. It was right here. See, Apple sitting here, and I said, watch out for Apple. Next thing you know, it's at 215 before you know it, right? Overnight. So just keep an eye on it. You see there's a lot of gaps to fill at the top on Apple. Look at that. Microsoft kind of did this before its earnings last time. If you remember, Microsoft was beaten down. So I like to make comparisons, but look at Microsoft, what it did right before its earnings when it was beaten down. Right here. Right before its earnings, sitting down here, doing nothing. Earnings comes in, 350 to 500 in a month and a half. All those gaps got filled, right? So Apple, keep it on watch. Yeah, if you're in the Discord, I'll update y'all this week on what it's doing. I'm going to turn my alerts on. Apple above 206, 207, it's about to fly, right? 204, 205 is kind of iffy on Apple because it's been rejecting there. But yeah, you can see it clearly, clean as day right there, like 203. Just can't get above there, can't get above there. Once it breaks, it's going to start moving. Okay? So that's one for July stock picks. Amazon, massive move on Friday. My gosh. I had an 80% downside trade on Amazon. And look at this end of the day on Amazon. Like absolutely just ridiculous, godly candle in literally like 10 minutes. Like Amazon was fading all day. I was like, man, beautiful. Got those puts. And I was like, okay, I'll be ready for Amazon next week. Nope. Friday, I'm just going to go ahead and go. So that tells me, you can see, look at that extreme bullishness. I mean, buyers stepping back in. So we know Amazon is ready to go for July. Look at this. Above the daily, above that 200 mark right there, took off from there. Above the daily 20 right here, which is right at 212. And it's just building like massive strength. Okay. So if I can catch a scalp on the downside on Amazon, kind of like what I did on Friday, great. But any pullbacks on Amazon, it'll be at 250 before we know it. Okay. Amazon Prime Day is coming up. You already know. So if it pulls back at all, I wouldn't necessarily chase this per se, because it could go, very quickly up to its target and pull back and trap people that want to jump in late. Okay. So I would watch the 218 to 220 level on Amazon. 218 to 220. Okay. And why is that? Because these previous highs are sitting right at 218. So that's essentially a break, retest, go. So if we pull back again one more time, right, catching the 218s or so, I'll be looking for calls back up. So pulling back, I want to think calls on Amazon. Okay. Any red, I'm not really interested necessarily unless I see something. But any pullbacks on Amazon, we want to think calls. All right. Same idea. Further out, the better. Amazon's going to have earnings. I think Prime Day is this week or something. So it may do one of those run into Prime Day pullback type of deals. But yeah, Amazon will be at 240, 250 before we know it. So they are pricey into August 15th, maybe end of July. Those are decent. I mean, you see that these contracts are already at 96%, and it's a month out. So they're already moving 100% at the 230s. So yeah, 230 is definitely a target. Look at that gap all the way back up there to 236, right there, that little gray area. So we know that's a target for sure on Amazon is 240. It's coming in hot pretty soon. Okay, so keep that eye. Amazon will be headed to 240, right? But we need to watch for where the pullback's going to be for entry. If we can catch it, great. If I'm not chasing on trading wise, just let some Amazon shares that you may have go. But if we can catch it, any pullback, Amazon extremely bullish. Okay. Google, same deal. Look at this. Oh my gosh. I've been talking about Google for I don't know God how many times, that this is a sleeper. Absolute sleeper, that it is ready to go, coming off the daily 20, almost just extremely bullish. You can't picture perfect off that daily 20 right there at 173 on Friday. Any pullback on Google, look at this rotation. Do you see how it's lagging behind the market? Right? So everyone's chasing NVIDIA, like, man, NVIDIA is already gone. Right? Like, if you missed it, you missed it. Right? Like Microsoft, it's already gone. Right? It's already gone. Look at things that are beaten down that haven't really made it back to all-time highs. Google, look at that gap fill all the way back up to 200. Google will be back at 200 before we know it. It's got some things to get through. It's got to get back and above 182, or just say, close a day above 180, that psych level. Look to my left here. Do you see that 180 level gets pretty heavy there? Our next level right here, which is 190, and then blue sky territory above there, just could be into the fall time, could be into their earnings. So again, Google, I think their contracts are a lot more affordable for folks, and folks in my Discord understand that. I've been mentioning Google a lot as of late, just because their contract price has been trading in a lot. So Google, see if we can get some of those August, kind of pricey there, not bad, but I would say July 25th would be something we could look at. But if we wanted to day trade it, I would look at, this July 18th date. So 185 could be a very realistic target in the next couple of weeks on Google. You see the contracts are already starting to build up 26%, 26,000, 20,000, 33,000. So any pullback, I would look at 190 calls, 180 calls, 185 calls for Google July 18th. Okay, so that would be my idea for this week. If we get any pullbacks, you want to go to those stocks that like, oh man, yeah, let me go look at Google if you're trading. Okay, share buying, just assume anything I mentioned for trading, you're more than welcome. Like, Brian, what about shares? Yeah, buy shares, right? That's fine too. Okay, so keep that daily 20. You see how that, for those that have never seen it before, why have I been mentioning daily 20 and daily 200 multiple times? See how close it got back above it. Look how it had a rocket ship off it. It's like a power boost button. Okay. So if it pulls back a little bit towards it, still stays above it, still bullish, it's going to try to take it out. Okay. Let's go to AVGO. Okay. It's above its daily 20, as you can see. All right. A little bit above it. It may want to pull back to it. But AVGO in the semiconductor sector, there's a gap back down. I do see a little bit of a trend break. So that is interesting to me. Potentially, that if it does do this, this is what we caught on Amazon and also on Hood for Dreama and Trent on Friday. So when we get this trend break, retest, and if I see any type of failure back below like that, that could get pretty aggressive, something like that. So I'm kind of interested in that potentially if the contracts are sitting right. Maybe some puts on AVGO for a scalp back down to the mid 260s. But I will be keeping an eye on the overall market. So if I do see QQQ pulling back, if I do see SPY pulling back, AVGO might be one of those that I might be interested in trading back down through this gap. Okay. Palantir. A lot of people have questions on Palantir. My goodness, on Palantir, oh my God, I have FOMO. My mother's texting me like, what is going on with Palantir? My shares. I'm like, Ma, your average cost is underneath $20. What are you talking about? Okay. But I said it was going to be happening pretty soon. Palantir did pull back. It's back underneath that daily 20, so it needs to recapture it for bullish strength and momentum. We do have some support downs below, but Palantir was due for a pullback. So it is going to be a little bit overextended to the downside. Obviously, it was a little bit drastic on Friday. We had almost a 10% pullback on Palantir in one day. So I think people got a little bit panicky. So 125 to 130 is holding as still above these previous highs as support. If Palantir reclaims back above 135, right, then that is where it could get some bullish strength right back. So it needs to get back above that 135.50, and then it can go back to the highs. Okay, so watch Palantir. If it does continue to hold underneath kind of this daily 20, which is sitting right at 135, it may want lower. Okay, it may want lower. So Palantir's got a lot of movement on it. I will be keeping a high alert watch on that for day trading because it's got obviously a lot of volume, a lot of eyeballs are going to be on it, and we know we can make a lot of money or a good amount of money with when you have a direction or volume. Now, one thing I want to show you here that happened on Palantir was simply a trend break. Brian, why did this crash so much? Yeah, there was stuff in the news and whatnot, things like that. Jim Cramer wonders if it was a casualty because of the Russell rebalance, so on and so forth. But it was simply a trend break. See how this trend was holding up on this white line and that trend broke? There you go. That's what I was talking about for beginners or even myself. Look at how this trend kind of broke out of AVGO. All right, it's in this trend breaks, it may want to start getting drastic. Okay, so those have been money for me lately and our community inside of Leverage talking about trend breaks, and then we can trade either up on a trend break or down on a trend break. Okay, so Palantir on high alert. Oracle, another one, high alert for downside. I love some downside plays. Give me gap fills to the downside. If it gets moving, it is over. Money, easy money. Oracle, another one that's getting really heavy up here. Okay, it's still kind of on this trend right here, as you can see, above 207. But if the market starts pulling back and Oracle kind of breaks underneath that 207, it could get pretty drastic back down into 200. Okay, so I'm watching Oracle to see if I can get any pop. It is a little bit slower of a mover, so to speak, so I don't ever want to chase it. But it has printed some money for me if I can catch it. But look at this: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tries to get through that 216 and just can't get through it. So if that trend breaks underneath that 208, 207, 208, kind of is underneath that previous low right there, and that continues, all right, that is interesting to me to trade it down. And you see how much room it's going to be a little bit drastic here, but you see how much room is down to fill that gap. Look at the RSI as well. So for anyone, beginners again, or anybody, I only mention that because to make it simple, you can only use 2 or 3 tools: trend breaks, support, resistance, and maybe use RSI. Oh man, this is overextended. It's probably gonna have a pullback. Yeah, so potentially puts, right? All right. Same thing with AVGO, getting up there on a daily. Yeah, could trade that back down. Very similar to here. Okay. Uber, extremely bullish. I don't really necessarily want to trade against Uber because it is a little bit slower. I'd rather just wait for the pullback. But if Uber does break underneath 89 or back underneath 90, so to speak, we could have a pullback. You want to enter calls on Uber around 85 to 86 ideally. Okay. That is the best, in my opinion, pullback area for Uber calls again is back in here like that. So if we have a red day or a down day, Uber wants 100. Okay, just know that Uber wants 100 and is trying to get there, but you feel like you're chasing a little bit up here, but it is holding up against 90. All right, so if Uber can pull back into that 85, 86, keep that on watch as well. I really put Tesla to the side as far as day trading it. It's just with Elon involved and whatnot, I don't want anything said, so I've just kind of left Tesla alone. It used to be my number one trading stock for me until all this political stuff and whatnot. So, yeah, consolidating above 315, kind of getting stuck up here. Yeah, personally don't like it. A little heavy. You see that big top wick there. So, daily 20, daily 200 breaks underneath that 313s, coming probably back to 270 again. Just not really interested personally. AMD, very strong. Remember that list we were talking about? Look how AMD was obviously beaten down in here to underneath $100, got to $82. If you bought up shares like we talked about, AMDL, SOXL, NVDL for NVIDIA, things like that, you were up. Congrats. 150, it wants 150. Above 150, it's going to start moving. But again, I kind of want to look at this pullback into this daily 20 if it can get back there, which would be right around 130. If we can get some type of 130 pullback would be great. All right, you see how much more room AMD has back up into the 170s, 180s. This is looking great for a chart back in here, 130, and continue to build. Okay. Also, if you look left, as a macro support level right around 130. Look how it built off of 130. It wants to go to 160, came back to 130, wants to go to 170. Okay, so that above 130 is really key. If we can get a bigger pullback, that'd be great. But any red on AMD, we may want to think long term back up into 160, 170, 180. All right, Hood. If there's any specific stocks anyone wants to know, now's the time to ask. I'm now an hour and a half in, so I'm getting to the end of my list here. Hood just getting stuck at all-time highs. I think it's just a little bit overcooked. Right back here, rejected at 85, 86. I think Hood wants 100, but it needs a pullback. Kind of like, Palantir did. Kind of like it's just going to shock everybody at one point where it may just have one of those pullback days. It's like, what in the hell just happened? It was due, right? So Hood, I am not really interested in taking any more upside personally. Let the shares do the work. Awesome trade for Dreama and Trent that took Hood puts on Friday for a nice win there. But Hood, I would look at a pullback into maybe 77 to 78 potentially, or 75 would be the daily 20 there. Okay. Coinbase, I just got to mention it, honorable mention. It has been absolutely a massive, just back to highs in 1 month. So I wouldn't be surprised if Coinbase maybe cooled off for next month or into this month. People just taking their profits. I mean, look at this monthly candle. It went from 236 to 383 in 1 month. All right. So Coinbase pull off, is a bigger player, bigger mover. So if you need specific levels, but I'm I'm just going to let it cool off and do what it does. I'm interested in other things personally, but it does have a lot of volume on it. So if I can catch it on a retest, I think maybe I'd rather trade against it personally. So if it can pop up a little higher, I may trade puts back down on it, right? Or I just got to wait for it to fall back into 310 and 300 for the pullback area. I really only trade coin towards the end of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, and since this is a short week, I'm really not interested in it. All right, these are the final ones. As you can see, my watch list is pretty separated into indices, yellow, my main trading stocks, and blue, and then kind of side watches that are a little bit slower movers that I kind of watch that may have a big movement pretty soon. Kava, I was looking at this, I was like, dang. Kava sitting right in support on a weekly time frame. Every time Kava got at 75, it went right back to 97. 75 went all the way back to 172. Now I know this is in the obviously food, hospitality, consumer spending, consumer discretionary, things like that, but I still trade the charts and still looking at it. So probably need Kava to get back above. I want to see it maybe how it reacts this week, but there's a lot of buyers sitting right here at 75 to $77 on Kava. If it gets maybe back above 80, that'll be in that nice psych level. If I go into the daily, look at that, holding up that daily 20 right there, starting to get some bullish momentum. There's some gaps above, as you can see there. All right. And there's that daily 200 that's sitting right all the way back at 110. So I love Kava's chart. I think this could rotate back to 100 and 110 pretty quickly over maybe the next 6 months or so. But Kava, maybe keep on your back end watch of something that could move back aggressively. You can look at shares. You can maybe look at some longer dated options, maybe into October. I was looking at some of the 100s to see how those were priced. Maybe August 15th or something like that. 90s, 85s. Yeah, so I'm just going to keep a watch on it, see what it does. It still needs to prove a little bit more just because it's been on this downtrend. And, we know that it could just, pop up here and come a little lower. All right, so I'm going to mark this next area of interest right here, which would be right at $60 on Kava, which would be even better. All right, just in case it does kind of roll over, come back into that 60, then wants to do it. Okay, so keep an interest eye on Kava. If it gets back above 80, maybe turn your alerts on that. HIMS, a lot of folks have a watch on HIMS. If you picked up shares on HIMS, awesome job. Big gap down, as you can see here, went from 66, shocked everybody, went back to 40. People bought up some shares, now it's starting to move. So it is forming nicely back above that $47 to $48 level on HIMS. And it ultimately, for those that know, it wants to fill this gap back up. Right? They are pricey as far as contracts go. So July 18th would be one, and you can see they're already $300 something just for those. So I would say probably looking at the $58 to $60 contracts potentially, but making sure you put time on it if you're going to go that far out of the money. It's a realistic target, but you got to give it some time. So I would look at July 18th minimally if you want to look at HIMS, so you have enough time to hold it and maybe look at that $58 to $60 target on HIMS again, and also shares. All right, look where it bounced, right at that weekly moving average. And then it's kind of sitting in between these. So as you can see, it needs to get back above that 55 to 54. That could be a resistance. So I would say the best buying opportunity on HIMS, this might be a little bit early because it could reject, would be back down here at 30 to 35 bucks. All right, 30 to $35. It may want lower, all right? This could just be a little bit of a rebound, and then it doesn't fill the gap and then comes all the way back down. So I would say the best buying would be back down here at $34, $35. Okay. So that's why I'm being a little bit more patient on HIMS personally. Shares, great. Anywhere underneath $50, you can pick up some shares. HIMS will be a $100 stock in my opinion. Plus, some people are like, man, it's gonna be a $200. Oh, okay, just get to 100 first. Okay, kind of like we were talking about Robinhood. Man, it's gonna be a $500 stock. Just get to 50 first. Okay. Oh my gosh. Like XRP. XRP is gonna be at $50 for y'all know it's gonna be $100. I'm like, man, get past $5 first. You know what I mean? So, all right. I don't see anything else really. I'm keeping my eye on Lululemon coming into this holidays, kind of like the summer time frame. I think their numbers are going to be pretty good as people may have probably picked up some athleisure stuff, and it's got obviously this change of trend here, as you can see. So went from this downtrend now to this uptrend. It may want to rotate back up. It's got earnings coming up at the end of, I think, August or middle of August. So I think it's going to be back personally at $300 plus Lululemon very soon. So that's one of my watches for July, as well as still keeping an eye on, UNH. Right? I think UNH is a sleeper. It is a bigger stock, as you can see. It's consolidating for a big move. It'll be back at 400 very easily. Back at 400 very, very easily. It'll be a blink of an eye. We'll look up like, God dang it, UNH. So I'm starting to see some intrigue here. You can see it's forming this nice trend there. Building. Where is it sitting? Right above that daily 20. Right there. And look at where the daily 200 is, all the way back up at damn near $500. So if we want to be real, I mean, that's really how it looks. Risk to reward. Shares, long dated call options out to the end of the year. Some people are spending a lot more money and doing it, into 2027, things like that. But yeah, UNH. All right, my mouth's starting to water, or starting to get dry, excuse me. A little bit longer. I typically do longer at the end of the month, so I do apologize for the extension. Marvel, if possible. Yeah, of course. Checking the chat really quick before I bounce out. Please give me feedback. If you want to message me privately on Instagram or something like that and say, hey, Brian, like, can we have this? Or I'm a little bit confused or whatever, and I can give a quick answer. But if you're confused on any of this, you're like, man, there was a lot. I'm telling you, everyone says that until they either come more frequently or they get in the Discord and actually see live trading. You don't even have to take a trade just yet in the first week. I think, Dreama, you took like a week to take your first trade just to watch, right? And there's a lot of people that do that. They'll join the Discord, pay the money, get inside, and they'll protect their capital until they feel like, okay, I understand it, y'all. There's money being made. I get it. I understand the lingo. It didn't take me long. I want to take my first trade, Brian. Cool. That's fine. And we don't just trade. There's also my long-term share channel as well for anybody that just, where do I buy Marvel for shares? So I give levels on all those types of things. Marvel levels $68 to $70, obviously sitting right here above these moving averages. Look at that daily 20 right there. So as long as it stays above $70, targets on it, I personally believe 100, and then back to all-time highs. This is a nice bullish structure personally, where it's a trend there. Right, where you would get concerned, who was that? Marlin. Is more so if we fail back underneath that $70 range. But any pullbacks on Marvel, bullish on it. If those don't know what this is, it's in the semiconductor space. So again, lagging stock in a bullish sector, right? So the tech sector, very bullish. Microsoft, Nvidia, so on and so forth. What's lagging? Google, Amazon, Apple. Right? Marvel. Right? in the semiconductor sector. Nvidia's at all-time highs. AMD's already moving, right? ARM is already moving. MU's good. What's Marvel doing? Chilling, right? Ready to take off back to the highs at 125, 130. So Marvel anywhere between, if you're share buying, 60 to 75 bucks. Just in that range, underneath 80 bucks, I think it's a no-brainer. It'll be at 100 plus. So I don't know if you were asking me for shares, or I don't know if you were asking for options. Yep, there's Dreamer right there. She said, I took 2 weeks. So I think that's a lot of people's, questions or thoughts is I don't want to be thrown in and I want to wait till I'm ready and, all that kind of stuff. It doesn't matter what group or what. It's always better to trade or invest, I believe, with people because your mind's not trying to figure out on your own. You can collaborate on ideas. All right. Both? Okay, cool. Yeah. Yep. Obviously, shares are a lot easier. You can just dollar cost average and it's going to be at 100 whenever. Options, I would try to catch it on a red day, back at closer to 70. So if you can, depends on how many times you're going to add as well, Marlon. So if you're only going to add an option contract one time, then you need to, in my opinion, wait for the bigger pullback. If you don't want to miss the move and you're like, what if it goes now? And you can add once, right? Then you would look at probably October or even go into January if you want to take it out further than that. For something like Marvel, it does take a little bit longer. So I would say August 15th would be the shortest I would go, and try to keep it closer to that $80, $90 range personally. All right. But I would minimally look at probably October, September for contracts on Marvel. If you want that $100 target, I'd probably say October or further for options. Cool. Yeah, you're welcome. Cool. All right, everybody. I know that was a mouthful. Appreciate y'all sticking with me. Please make sure that you check the links in the chats down below. After this video is done, you can check the links and say, hey, or if you have any referrals or whatever kind of things, if you want to join the Discord. If you don't, that's perfectly fine. Really want to shout out. You're more than welcome to tap out now, but just kind of shouting out some folks inside of our Discord here. You can see there, and I know some people want to know what it looks like inside. My day trade signals are maybe a little bit different than other groups. I typically put my charts with it. So once I'm in a trade, as you can see, I updated all the way through. I tell exactly what we're getting into. Amazon 210 put average. That's what you should be paying for. I give the trade idea. There it is. And that is exactly what happened with Amazon. It moved all the way back down here into the 208s. Okay. IWM, that one failed a little bit. I gave the idea on that. And then on Friday, we took awesome trades there, which I did not signal, but I gave everybody, because it was a little bit fast. Took Amazon puts this morning, look exactly where we entered. Dreama, Trent can vouch for this, entered exactly right there at 221. Exactly how the trade planned out, and it went down, and we made 80% on our money on the Amazon puts. Dreama and Trent took hood puts on that trend break right there and went all the way back down into, the 80s or so. And they got 85, 90% on their money, okay? So here's the shares channel. We do trade futures as well. So if you're interested in that, I've got levels all on my futures, ES, gold, NQ, RTY. So give levels on those as well. And then shares and leaps, if anyone just wanted to buy shares, you just need to know levels on those. We definitely give the best buys on levels on what those are going for and where they are. Just don't want to toot our own horn here. It's not just me. Do have a moderator, James, awesome guy. But we can go all the way back to where we picked up hood at the beginning of 2023 and where it is now. So there's May 2023, right? Calling out those levels. It's crazy to see where those levels are. It's absolutely wild. Absolutely wild. I'm just kind of doing this for my own. Look at SoFi. Here's some levels I pointed out on SoFi, Palantir. Don't you wish you can go back and get Palantir at $14? Long-term buy levels, I bought at 14, 15, 17, SoFi at $7 to $9, Google 116 to 118, Verizon, awesome deal there. Yeah, just trying to find the next big one. Ionic, that's another one that we were looking at. That one was at $7. I think personally right now it's going to be like Joby and Archer. I'm just kind of chatting right now, just kind of throwing out there, just a little bonus time. I think it's going to be Joby and Archer in the aviation space is going to be our next $20+ play. I know a lot of people are looking for cheaper stocks they can maybe grab 100 shares of, 50 shares of. Joby in the aviation space, you can see how it's building up here. And this is just in the stock space. I'm not talking about crypto. I can move to that. We got our levels on crypto as well in here. As you can see, we have our crypto hub. I give all my levels and charts on where Bitcoin's going, where Ethereum's going. There's the levels on Bitcoin all charted out and where the best buys are. I've got add 1 right where it hit at 80,000, add 2 at 60 if it falls back to there, and add 3 at 45,000. And I'm not saying it's going to pull back to there, but you got to be prepared. You got to be prepared. So add 1 was at that 75,000 when it pulled back to 75. Congrats to anybody who picks those up. All right. Yeah, just trying to show proof in the pudding. And this is about education. So if you really want to learn, maybe this is something for you, or maybe this channel's for you. If people just want to jump in and gamble, maybe it's not for you. That's perfectly fine. All right. That's all I got. Thank y'all so much. Peace, love, and blessings to you. Thanks for all the support. We'll keep the videos coming. I apologize for the midweek videos not being as frequent, but I'll make sure to get one at least out by Wednesday to update you on levels and see how things are playing out for the channel. All right. Peace, love, and blessings. Y'all have a great rest of your evening.